So welcome everyone to the December Fundamentals meeting. And tonight we have Steve Sagerian as our speaker. Steve has contributed to Fundamentals several times in the past. We had a topic once on how to make a dew heater, and on the RAC handbook, and on Messier marathons. And it was with the Messier marathons that Steve also got into Stellarium to help you find some of those Messier objects, and it kind of then dovetails into the talk that he's going to give today. So Steve, take it away.
Great, thank you very much. So when I'm putting this presentation together, I was using two screens, and the thought or the concept was that the laptop and the projector would act as those same two screens, but unfortunately the projector doesn't want to behave properly, so what I have to do is I'll have to switch between, on this one screen you'll see me switch between Stellarium, my web browser, and then my PowerPoint. And so where I reference you people as the unwashed on my PowerPoint, just ignore that. So anyways, let's get started. So Stellarium is a it's a software package that mimics planetarium on your laptop or on your computer. It models the sky in very great detail. It will provide you with the ability to do all sorts of wonderful things. You can, if you're a newbie, you can just learn about the constellations. You can recognize the patterns of the stars. You can learn things like navigational stars. You can learn just how the sky moves, and you can also get some really cool concepts in terms of like how is the sky referenced? How do we put our equatorial grid? How do we display that, or how is that projected onto the actual physical universe? You can also plan your observing. So if you're a visual observer, you can look at the various. You can set the magnitude of the stars for the area that you're going to be at. You can do things like look at the star patterns. It'll show you. You can set up to show the constellation lines, or you can turn those off. You can look for asterisks, turn those lines on and off, all sorts of cool stuff. If you're a astrophotographer, there's an ocular, what's called a plug-in, and that plug-in allows you to sort of do things like understand what your scale of your camera will capture in terms of, and also the orientation, depending on how it's oriented. So you can actually plan, and I'll show you an example of that. All those things. So it's a really, really nice tool. This is the website. Yeah, Stellarium. So Stellarium's been around since 2000. So it's not new. It's not exciting. What kind of software can we think of that came out in the 2000? Maybe Netscape. Anybody remember Netscape? So
that's older than 2000.
It actually, Netscape's a little older. That's right. But the point is, it's a really you might think, wow, we're going to see something really new tonight, but we're not really seeing something new. We're seeing something that's been around for a long time. And the good thing is that it's been steadily improving and steadily becoming better and better. And today, it's probably the premier software package for planetarium for people who want to study the stars. Again, this is the website, stellarium.org. You can download various different flavors of this. If you are a Windows person, you can get the Windows installer here. Mac OS, various flavors of Linux, and there's even a web version. I actually started. I've never played with the web version, but here it is right here. It looks very much like the one that I was showing you. Let's see. So this is the one that we'll be talking through tonight, but the web version is not too bad. If you don't know how to download and install Stellarium, just ask your children, they'll show you how to do that. Okay. All right, so I guess I covered the uses of Stellarium. The gentleman who created it was a gentleman named Vivian Chereau. He's a French programmer. Let's see. Okay, yeah, and then choosing your package. There's even a version of this that runs on Raspberry Pi. So if you have those little Raspberry Pis, you can configure it on. If you're playing around with Raspberry Pis, you can actually run a full-blown version of Stellarium that's smaller than the display, and actually just bolt it to your display, and then you'd have this thing to take out to the field with you. Okay, so when you install it, I'm going to try and show you this. You're going to get a bunch of different flavors of Stellarium. And I want to talk about that a little bit because it's important to kind of know. So, where's Stellarium? Okay. So here's Stellarium, and here's the installation for my machine. Can everybody see that? Okay, that's Stellarium. That's how to launch it through the power button on Windows. But there's also these other flavors of Stellarium. There's something called Stellarium Angle Direct 3D, Stellarium Angle, Stellarium Mesa, some other versions. So if you have a computer that's kind of old or aging, you're going to try and put it to use to run Stellarium, these are the versions you want to play with if it doesn't run with the first version. The first version is designed for the latest and greatest graphics cards. It's running, Direct 3D, the open source, the open video standard for cards. But these other versions will run earlier libraries and libraries that are less intensive in terms of using resources and memory and stuff like that. Your video image will be a little bit less sharp or crisp, but it will still play. So if you're, like I said, if you're trying to take an older laptop and employ it for this, for this kind of use, then you might try one of these. All right, and then there's one last thing I want to talk about. There's also this thing called the Stellarium User's Guide. It comes with each installation. So when you install it, you get the User's Guide. The User's Guide is the best source of information for questions you have or issues you might encounter. If you want to find out about how one of the buttons works, or if you want to find out how to write scripts, or if you want to do something else, this guide will be the place you go first. Okay. Let's see. Going back to the PowerPoint. All right, let's actually go and start playing with it. So this is Stellarium. There are really four main elements to this application. There's the sky and the horizon. This is I've got this set to mid-afternoon today, and you can see the constellations are kind of floating there. But this is the main element. There's also, if you bring your mouse over to this to the left side, you'll see this vertical bar that comes up, and it has all these different buttons. A lot of these buttons are designed for configuring the way that Stellarium will display time, just everything for configuring the way the Stellarium works. This bottom, if you bring your cursor down to this corner, you'll see another bar that has these buttons are primarily for enabling and disabling features that you want to play with. Now you can also, it's kind of annoying, but you can also anchor these. If you, in the very corner, there's a little tiny button. You can click on that. You click on that, and now these two will stay there, and you don't have to go looking for them all the time. So that's something to know. All All right. I'm just gonna run Stellarium for just like 30 seconds and let you see what happens. And I'm going to turn on. So I'm going to turn on the equatorial grid. This is the sky grid that we use to reference the stars. You see this green line here? That's actually the meridian. It's actually, and if you can, that's actually, yeah, it's the meridian. Well, I want to look south, so I'm going to use the shortcut key S to look south. So I'm now looking south. I could also look east, or I could look, and you can see there's a little cardinal point here, a compass point east, and now I'm looking west. Those are shortcut keys that you can learn about, and we'll talk about where to find those a little bit later. But okay, so I'm looking south, there's the sun, and I'm just going to play with the time. I'm just going to speed things up a little bit. So I just want you to watch this and see. I always think this is so cool, just to see a full day, and then you can actually speed this up a little bit more if you want. Okay, Steve. I just turned it off. Let me power back up. And I'll show you a way to not do that. Okay, so right now it's set. Okay, here's another point. Stellarium, well, when you first power it up, will grab, unless you configured it to actually go to a specific day, it will grab the day on your laptop. So whatever time it is currently, locally, it will grab that time. And now you can see it's dark. But I don't want to. I want to go back and I kind of want to. I want to start. Sorry, like midday. So I'm going to click it, and I'm going to turn this off for a minute, and I'm going to turn this off for a minute, and then I want to look south. So the other thing is you can see that I can drag the ground or the sky, and I can look in any direction I want to. You can also do this, I think, with the time function. Okay, so we're just gonna speed this up a little bit and just watch a full day come through it. I just think this is fascinating, just to see this. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. When the sun starts to come up, we'll look a little bit east here. Just to show you how cool this model is. It'll actually model the way that twilight comes up. So you'll begin to see a slight dome, you'll begin to see a larger dome. The physics and the mathematics behind this are very, very accurate. Let's see where we're at. So 5 o'clock in the morning. There it is. And you can see that whole light dome. There's the sun. Okay, so I guess that's one thing I wanted to show just really quickly. And I can set it now just to stop. How many people here have been to the North Pole? Well, let's all go to the North Pole. So, okay, so the first button I want to show you is the location button. And you can set this to any place in the world you want to set it to. So there are a lot of predefined locations, obviously cities in the US and the world, Europe, Asia, China. You can basically set this to be at any location that you want it to be. I have defined Plainfield, so that's where I live. And so I have Plainfield in here. If I type in Plainfield, it will start to fill in those. You can see them up there. Okay, so you won't actually see much change because I'm already in Plainfield on this map. But I want to take everybody to the North Pole because I want to show you something really cool about this. Let's see. So what I'm doing is I'm changing our latitude. And we get to, okay, we're at 90. So now, what are we going to see when I start that? Now, if I start the thing going again, what are we going to see? We're not going to see the sun come up. Why? It's permanent night there. So this model will be, and so let's really speed it up. Now you watch, as you watch, you'll eventually see, now if I stop it, whoops, the date is February 31st. So you can see now at the North Pole, the sun is starting to show up at the North Pole. But, did I get something wrong?
Did you say February 30th?
March 31st.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't read. I'm dyslexic. I'm a software engineer.
The North Pole gets a couple extra days in February.
But I'm
Okay.
listening.
Okay, so that covers our location button. And I've already talked about a little bit. I kind of showed you the time button. So this is our time and date. You can specify these in normal, everyday calendar dates. This is, well, let me go back and set it for today. So now you'll see that this is back to 2022, 12, 20. Oh, by the way, I didn't wish everybody happy solstice. So. I don't know, that's the thing that's confusing about me. If we're going to have solstice, why would we be happy about it, right? Because that means we're going to have less night. I don't know, I'm confused
That's
about
true, yes.
that.
We're the only ones that are happy that they're sad that the days are growing longer.
Exactly. Okay, so this is your date, time and date bar, and you can set it. One of the things I occasionally will do is I'll ask myself, what were the stars like at a specific location and a specific date in history? So, I often will go look at what the stars looked like in Corona, California on my birthday when I was born, and just to see, oh yeah, that's right, this star was on the meridian at a particular time. So you could play a kind of game with yourself and have a little fun with it. I would encourage you to sort of, if you know when you were born, what time, you could actually find out exactly what stars were crossing the meridian right when you came out. So that, another kind of a weird thing that I find interesting about that. Okay, so the next field here is our sky and viewing field, and we click on that, it brings up a whole bunch of stuff. And this is primarily buttons and stuff that configure the way that we see Stellarium, the way it's presented. This first field is called the sky field, and you can see there's a sky and a stars and a projection panel. The stars here you can set up for things like how bright the zodiac light is. I've kind of tried to play around with that a little bit. How bright the Milky Way is in your display. One of the things I always like to do is I like to put a few meteors shooting. So if you look in the background now, you'll start to see meteors. Occasional meteors will fly through. So that's fun to see. On the star side, on the star panel, you can actually set the magnitude limit for your location. So if you know you're only going to be able to see magnitude 4 stars, and you want to get a feel for what those patterns look like, you can actually set this by clicking on this button and then setting the actual field for what kind of magnitude you want. There are other fields here that have to do with modeling how the stars behave. For example, you can see there's something called twinkle, and it gives you a rate. So if you wanted to see twinkle, if you wanted to see light, atmospheric distortion of the stars, you could simulate that. The other thing I would comment about this is this projection. So if you're, normally you're just projecting onto your laptop, or you're just using it on your laptop. If you're doing it on a projector in your home, you might want to play around with it a little bit. If you have the money and you're going to project it onto the ceiling, you have a projector that projects like a fisheye, you can change the way that the output is displayed. And I guess those would be in more of a professional environments. The one last thing about this one panel I would talk about is that let's go back, and I'm just going to change the time a little bit. easier to see. It's, changing viewing dates. Sorry. Let's go to the next slide, I guess. Oh, I'm at the North Pole still. Done it. It's never going to get lighted. Okay, so let's just go back to plain field. Okay, there we go. That's okay. So this line between the sky and the horizon is how that it is is controlled by this panel here. It's called the vertical viewport offset. And as I click this up or down, you can see that the horizon drops a little bit. I kind of like that because it gives me a bigger view of the whole sky. Now you got to remember this is completely distorted, right? You're never gonna have a view where you can look east and see, south, and you're just not gonna have that kind of view. So I'm looking south, but I can see southwest and southeast and east, and just a little bit of west there. So this view is very, very distorted, but I have a very large field that I can see the constellation and the stars that are there. And that's controlled again by this one offset. So if you play around with this stuff and you configure it the way you like it, you also have to save it. You have to remember to save it. And you save it, where's that? Landscape. I don't remember now. Well, we'll find it in a minute and I'll show you how to save it. But you want to remember to save your settings. Okay, all right. So we're going to just progress from left to right on these tabs. This tab here is for the solar system objects. It's a solar system editor. You can do things like you can show the orbits of planets. So if you click, you can see in the background now there's the orbits of Jupiter, Saturn. So that's a little bit better view. You can have those turned on if you like. If you like to see where the planets are tracing through the sky, you can actually see that by turning that on. I'm going to turn it off because it's a little bit much. There's this thing called the solar system editor, and this allows you to bring in asteroids and comet data, ephemeral data that is changing, or for example with comets, if you're on the comet hunting list, you'll get an email that says, oh hey, we saw this new comet, it's designated this. The Minor Planet Center has the ephemerals for it, and you can go download those through this interface. And so for you guys tonight, I'm going to import, there's a, let's see if I can get it. I have to go find it now. I've got to see. Okay, so there's a recent comment called C2022E3, and we're going to just go get that data. So if I, you can click on this button that says, well, let's go back. Hey, I don't know, can you guys see that? There's a couple of buttons here that say asteroids or comets. I'm going to click on comets, and then I'm going to pull down the URLs that show up in this field will change depending on whether you're going for asteroids or comets. So I'm going to go to the Minor Planet Center's list of observable comets, and I'm just going to get all the orbital elements, and it's going to say, do you want all these? And I'm going to say, no, I just want, I'm going to paste this one in there. Let's see, did I get it? I'm not sure I got it. Okay, so now that comet should now be in here, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Does anybody not believe that I got this? Okay, all right. I think I got it. We'll find out shortly. The next button on this panel is for DSOs, for deep sky objects. It comes set up with just 3. Those are what are called the standard selection. You can select them all, and or you can select none. I usually just select the standard ones. You can change the way that they show up. So if you look here, we now have a few of these deep sky objects that are showing up in our list. You can also just filter by type. So if you're looking for planetary nebulae, or if you're looking for just galaxies of a certain type, or bright nebulae, or anything, you can actually select all of it and then filter by that type, and then only those will show up in your display. So the perfect way for pursuing a particular list of objects that you want to go look at. All right. This next one is a really fun one because you're obviously seeing some of these markings already. So we're looking at the elliptical, or sorry, the equatorial grid for our galaxy here. We also have the meridian. A couple of others that I like to put on there is the circumpolar circles. Oops. You can change the color, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to just turn that on. So now if you go look, if we go look north, I'm going to turn off the. So I've turned off the equator, or sorry, the equatorial lines, and I'm going to turn off the constellation lines. This one circle here is so you can see we're looking north. Everything inside this circle is circumpolar. So if you're looking to find out what deep sky objects are up all night, invisible, based on what kind of horizon you have, of course, but you can now look at those and go, oh, this one's available, this guy's available, and that guy is just barely available, depending on whether it's above the meridian or not. So that's a nice feature. You can play around with that kind of stuff. Let's go back and the zenith I like to have on there too. You can see now it shows up. You can see that little Z there. And that just shows you how distorted this picture is too. We're actually looking. If you were looking straight up, here's where your zenith would be. but in this display, you can see it's only like a quarter of the way down to the top. But it's nice to know that that's where it's at. I guess I'll turn that off. And we'll turn off the circumpolar stuff. But the point is, these are all the different kinds of markings you can put on your planetarium when you're wanting to look for something, or when you're wanting to learn something about the ecliptic. Let's turn on the ecliptic there, so you can see that. Oops. And so this is where you can see there's Jupiter, Saturn's down here. This would be the path of the planets, the stars. Okay, so the next one is landscapes. Now, obviously, the landscape we've been looking at. Let's turn our time. So you can play around with different landscapes. This is a landscape in, I think, France, but you could also do Jupiter. So there's what it would look like if you're looking from Jupiter. You could do it from the moon. So this is some location that was taken by some of our astronauts. Simply in the past. Which one? Anybody? I guess and you can also do zero horizon, which is just a green kind of a artificial horizon. So you can play around with that as well.
My understanding is you can import your own location if you take a picture.
You can, yes. So
360.
you can get, with most cameras these days, you can take a 360 image, and that's a different class. But the way you would do that is you would put it on a tripod and make sure that it stays at the same level when you're taking a picture. So you take a 360 image of your location, and then you can import that into like GIMP, like a software that can edit images, and you want to go through and you want to delete all the sky parts of that image, just basically whatever horizon you want in the picture. And then you resize it to whatever size screen you're using for your display, and then you zip that up into a file, into a folder, and then the whole thing gets dropped into these. I'll show you that. So one of the things I wanted to show you is that there are these various folder locations in Stellarium where it knows where stuff is at. So the install folder here has these. All right, I'll just leave it this way. So this is the install folder for Stellarium, and you can see there's all different folders here for various stuff. One of the folders is called landscapes, and you can see in here, when we were talking about the landscapes in the application, you can see those same names here. And these are just zip files, and they have pictures that, I'm not sure why we have so many pictures in this when the stuff that you use for creating your own is just one image. I guess I could research that at some point. But this is where you would put that folder, so if you were interested in that. That brings up another point I wanted to break. to talk about. Let's go back to Stellarium. So in Stellarium, you can do a screenshot. So let's say that you're a retired guy and you've got plenty of time to write articles about these constellations and stuff, and you want to write Steve's picks. You can do a screenshot by doing Control S. Now that puts this picture in that directory I showed you. Let's see. So here's that picture I just took a picture of. You can see that, right? So you could use this. Let's say you wanted to put this in your handout. Well, this is all black, right? So if you tried to print this on a printer, this would just be horrible, right? You would just get this big, terrible thing. But there is in Stellarium, there's this file called the config file. It's right here, and I actually have it. I have it in an editor. So here's that same file that you just saw, and you notice there's this thing called main. So this is the configuration file that shows all the different parameters for how Stellarium is set up. One of the things that's in here is called invert screenshot color, and it's set to false. So if I said true, and then I save this, and now let's see, I don't know if I have to restart Stellarium, but let's do a second picture. Think I do?
I think you would if it's iodine. I think so too.
Okay. Well, let's give it a try, and then if it doesn't, then back. Let's see what we got here. Now we go. Oh no, I do want to go. Yep, okay. All right, so I guess we got to restart it. So let's restart it. Power it off. Power back on. Unfortunately, I won't have the same. Oh, maybe I will. Okay, so now I do a Control Save, Control S, and go back to my. And now the picture is. It's inverted. But you can see that now you can see the constellations. You could actually print this in a Word document or in a document you want to write your article about. So you could do Steve's picks and do some really nice imaging. All right, let's go back. All right, we're going to keep going on. Okay, so we're still on this one tab. I guess I better speed this up or I'm never going to get through this stuff. StarLord, it has to do with, various cultures have had their own interpretations of what the stars, how they were arranged and what they meant and what they represented and stuff. So those are encapsulated in this block. So you can select, obviously this is set for Western Western civilization. You could go with Navajo, Mayan, Mongolian, Norse, and that would basically show you the constellations arranged in the way that those people saw those images in the sky. It's interesting, but for me, I guess I'm not that interested in it. I don't know what that means to me, but you can also do things like turn on various labels, so you can turn on asterism lines, We already have the constellation lines that we could show labels. So now if you look, you'll see that all of our constellations have, at least the constellations themselves have a name associated with them. This last one is Skysavers. It's kind of a technical new topic, and I'm going to ignore it for now. But basically, some of the very detailed sky surveys in various wavelengths of light have been captured, and you can actually load those in here. The images are much more detailed than what we're seeing on this image, and so if you load one of these things, it'll load essentially a smaller image of the bigger image, and then you click on that and you can go and look at the bigger image. But you can see that there are various, it talks about various wavelengths of light that these have been captured on. Very scientific kinds of data, and not, I guess, the domain of a fundamentals class. So let's just skip that. The search window, you can search by like Messier. So you can search by catalog number, star name, just about any kind of reference that you can think of. You can search, and if it has it in its database, and it will reference it, and it'll actually go to that object. So that comment we just put in here is there now, and let's see if we can. I guess it's below the horizon. There it is, right there. So we imported, remember we just imported that comment, and I guess it's just a little tiny green ball. So there it is. So we were able to get that comment from the Minor Planet Center, and now we can actually track it. So if you're, one of the things I was really interested in about 5 years ago was taking images of comets and making videos of them. And so I was on this comet list where they were announcing new comets that were being discovered, and everybody's off to the races trying to get an image of it, and one up the other guys to get a picture and stuff. Of course, we had some really nice comets just come in just in the last couple of years that were visible. This one is supposed to be a magnitude 7. Does anybody? So it's apparently you can go out and image it very easily if you're so inclined. Okay. There is a database called SINDAD. It is sponsored by a university in Europe, I think University of Luxembourg. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they have a large database of astronomical objects that you can pull down through their website, and so you can search that way as well. You can also search by position, so if you happen to know particular star location, or you want to look at something to see if there's something in a specific location, you can search that way. And then there's a list of stuff like the Big Dipper. So I clicked on that, and it brought me to the Big Dipper. That's the Dipper. There it is. You can see it actually is highlighted a little bit better. Okay. Remember earlier I was confused about how to save your settings, save your view. Here's where that is, and it's in the configuration window. By the way, all of these buttons have an F key that you can learn to get to those a little easier. this one happens to be F2. They start at F6, go down, and then for some reason the astronomical calculations probably came in later as this application was being developed, so it's F10. But the rest of these are just declining numbers. But you can you can save the settings, so the various markers we put in for like the circumpolar circle, the meridian. Those are the things that can get saved by saving your settings. And the view thing, so like the viewport, where we're changing the depth of the viewport, or even our field of view, that all gets saved when you click on these buttons. Okay, so we're now in this one tab called the information tab, and that has to do with, like, so if I click on a star, you see all this really great information about the star, its magnitude, its color, index, obviously its coordinates, its transit time. All that stuff gets displayed. You can set the amount of data that you can see by clicking one of these options up here. So right now I have all available clicked. You click the default. You can see that list shortened, so that it kind of reduces the clutter that's there. You can also go with the short, which basically just gives you the magnitude and its coordinates. You can turn it off completely if you didn't want that data, or you can also click on custom, and custom will allow you to select what you want. So I want the name, the absolute magnitude. Those things all start to show up. So you click these. What happens to these guys? Oh, there we go. So you can set up the information that's displayed by when you click on an object through this panel here.
Steve, now
Yes.
is that just for that object, or does that go for any object?
That goes for any object. So if I click over here,
Okay.
That's a global thing.
it's a global thing, yeah. Exactly. Okay. Let's just go with short for now, because short is better. No. Okay, that's Steve's opinion. Okay. This tab, the extras tab, allows you to turn on some additional markings. I'm not sure why. Oh, some of the features here. Remember, when I first started, I actually X'd out of the application. Well, you can avoid doing that by clicking this quit button. So see that the quit button's gone away? So if you're in the dark and you're doing this a lot and you're having to keep doing this, you can save yourself a lot of frustration by turning off the click button. And then when you're ready to actually quit the application, come back to the screen, turn it back on, and click it out. And that way you sort of save yourself from embarrassing yourself in front of people. Night mode. So some of the features down here on this bottom bar will appear or disappear based on whether they're enabled in this extras field. So night mode, if I click on that, you saw that this vertical or this horizontal tab kind of got shorter. If I click on it now, it'll get bigger, get a little longer. In the night mode, huh?
The eye.
The eye.
So low.
Yeah, there you go. So if I actually click it, it'll run this in night mode so that you can save your night vision for your observing. A lot of features are in this extras field. We'll leave the quit button off so I don't screw up anymore tonight, or at least not this. You remember I talked about setting up so when it starts up, it goes to a specific time. Well, this is where you would do that. So if you click on other, you could specify the date and time that you wanted to use for this to start up with. So if you're doing some, let's say that you were planning some stuff for an eclipse that's coming up, and you didn't want to have to scroll or go to that date to actually do stuff, you could actually enter the date here, save it, and then you'd be able to go right to it right away. These tools are, some of them are for enabling like mouse navigation. When I took those screenshots, I knew the location of where the files would go, and that's because I set this screenshots folder option here. So if I click on this, it'll take me to set up, I can set up the folder where I want it to be. So if I wanted to drop these, if I didn't want to go look for them, I could drop them in my desktop, or I could drop them in the pictures folder on the Windows. But you can customize this. You can also change the image format. So if you wanted a BMP, or if you wanted, there's TIFF in here. I think PNG is the standard that they go with the default. And you can also set the size. So if you were interested in getting a smaller size or a bigger size, you can also change it, and also the dots per inch. So you can configure your screenshots and where they go through this tool. Scripts. This tool has the ability to allow users like myself or other people to write scripts that give you, for example, when that idiot who did the Messier object class, he was able to basically select the Messier object, scroll to it, and then for a brief moment zoom in and then zoom back out and go to the next object. And that was sort of like it was just a canned program that he wrote. People have written a lot of programs, and then some of them have been contributed to the application. They show up as a default. Writing scripts is not easy. There's on the website, there's I guess I don't want to discourage someone from trying, but if you go to the Stellarium website, there's a whole document place where you can go to find out how to write scripts. The best advice that they give you for writing scripts is to actually just look at the scripts that are in there. So they have, going back to what earlier I talked about, where the installation is at, there's actually a folder called scripts, and here are all those same scripts. They're just text files, and I'll show you. Okay, so this is a script. I don't know, can you all see that pretty well? So basically, there's some calls to some core functionality, which basically sets up the whole application. There are different object managers that do things like turn on and turn off flags that enable features to come and go. Now this particular script is just really, really great. The guy who wrote this should get an award. It's just so simple, and so I've looked at a lot of these scripts, and this one just really struck me as, oh wow, it's great. So let's go ahead and play that script. I'll show it to you. So we're going to run it. So it's called Lunar. So we're going to play this script, and I just want you to enjoy it. So here we go. You can see stuff is moving. Oh my God. So those lines of code that you saw in that text editor are basically driving the Stellarium program to mimic a complete lunar eclipse. So cool. Yeah, it is cool. I'm impressed with that one. Okay. To get, well, I'm just gonna, I guess I'm gonna.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That was right there on the scripts tab, on the scripts tab. On the right there.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So you can.
Or you can hit the now thing, I think. Or press escape. Always press escape.
We'll get that quit button back and we'll just quit. And then start again. That's the way to do it. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Plugins. Oh my God. So plugins are features that you can enable and disable that do things in the application. A lot of them can be enabled through clicking on a button like this, load at start. And I've said a few of these. So for example, the angle measurement feature, I've enabled that so it's loaded at startup. The archaeological lines, I'm not really, I have not loaded that one. Bright novas, calendars. The equation of time I have loaded. The equation of time has to do with where the sun is at the meridian. What day is it? I guess it's just every day. So every day when the sun reaches its highest point, if you track that and graph it, you'll get that, what's it called? Dilemma, yeah. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, so anyways, the equation of time will show you the offset in how far away the sun is at local noon time for that day. So you can turn it on, it'll just show you that. It's interesting, and there are other ways of doing that, but that's what that does. Exoplanets, this will bring in all the exoplanets that are known that have been loaded into this database. So you can see those as, the same way you would see like a Messier object, you can go click on it. Historical novas. The meteor showers is one that is really nice. I'll show you that in a minute, but it basically brings up a screen and you can click a date, like a year, and it'll show you a list of all the meteor showers that are in that year or in that time frame. So that's a nice one. Navigational stars. Okay, so I'm going to go through these and I'm just going to talk about them real quick. Ocular, that's the one we'll talk about a little bit later. Online queries, I have no idea what that is. I don't use it. The polar coordinate or pointer coordinates. So what happens is when you enable that, your pointer will, as you move it around, it'll show you where you are in terms of right ascension, declination. Pulsars, quasars, all that stuff. Remote control, that's if you're doing a planetarium program where you're actually running it from a separate computer, so you have this computer running your Stellarium program, but you might be controlling it from another computer across the way. And then remote synchronization allows you to synchronize two sets of Stellarium programs running at the same time. Those are way more beyond fundamentals and stuff. And so I have not investigated those. This is Rick's favorite, satellites. He likes to watch satellites go through his images. So I guess I have that one loaded. I think that's actually loaded by default for some reason. I mentioned earlier that you could get to this solar system editor. You can go here and click on it, and it brings up that same window that I showed you earlier where we were loading the comet data. So you can also do it here. Telescope control, that's obviously one of the features that is sort of nice to have with this, and we'll actually have a demo for that in a few minutes. This text user interface allows you to basically do some of the same stuff we do here, kind of like shortcuts, but it's through a command, like a command window, a power window. So I've talked about them now. I'm going to show you a few of them, and we'll go through them. So just kill that. There we go. So the navigational stars one. I think this is really cool. So that guy who did the NSCA demo talked about, if you're new to astronomy, if you're not really sure about constellations and stuff, the best way to get started, one of the best ways, is to start learning these navigation stars. Navigation stars are stars that are they're more predominant, brighter stars in the heavens, and they were used for navigation by our ancestors, by primitive peoples. But here they are. You can see them right here. You can actually turn these on and off. I like the cool red. I think that's really neat. I talked about night mode already. Here's that one we talked about with the measuring angles. So I can click on. And now I can actually. Can I see it? I guess you got to do it. So you can actually measure the angular distance between 2 points. Is that useful? Maybe. So you can use that. You can turn it on or off. Here's the equation of time. Click that on, you can just see that it's just telling us that for today's solar crossing of the meridian, it'll be 2 minutes and 11 seconds, I guess, positive of the line, so it'll actually be on the right side. What is this one? Oh, show exoplanets. Okay, all right. So there's all the exoplanets, and there's the data for it. You scroll out a little bit. We turn off the navigation. Constellations. I don't know, there's quite a few of them, I guess. Okay.
Steve, when you say exoplanets, you mean stars known to have exoplanets?
Yes. So this observability one, if you click on this, it just shows you for a particular star. If you click on it, it will show you nights above the horizon, its farthest separation from the sun, its rising and setting times, and it's something called helical rise and set. I'm not sure what that's all about. So here's the mouse pointer. You can see as I move the mouse up here up in this corner here, you can see that it's changing the RA and declination. I'll turn off this one. I'll turn off this one. Here's a satellite one. Okay, so here's the meteor shower one. So if you put in let's go 2003. So here's the list of all of the, so the very first meteor shower of 2023 is January 3rd. scroll all the way down to December 22nd for the end of the year. So that's, someone asked on the forums about the meteor shower. This is a good way to kind of find that stuff out. Okay, let's talk about this guy up here in the corner. This is the ocular plug-in, and for some reason it has its own little corner. It gets its own little area here. I'm not sure why. This is useful for both visual observers and for imagers. If you're a visual guy, you can click on a star, and then you can bring in, you can start looking at reticles. Let's see. So here's your standard Telrad image. Obviously, this is a half degree. These are 2 degrees. This is 4 degrees apart. So you could use this to sort of figure out where you want to go, star hopping, that kind of stuff. This thing has a lot of different features. Let me see if I can just bring this up. So this is what that same star would look like through an eyepiece. And if I click on this, I can bring up a window that allows me to configure all sorts of stuff for the eyepieces. So I can define my own eyepiece up here in the corner, or you can use a whole bunch of these predefined eyepieces. Various lenses, like Barlow lenses, you can actually add those to the mix. Let's see, there's a telescope. So if you have any of these telescopes, you can select this telescope, and this will show you what you're looking at, what the image, what you'll see with that combination of eyepiece you've selected and the telescope, the field of view you'll see when you look through, when you turn on the ocular itself. So if you do that, and let's see, lens, let's go with this 26, since it's safe. You can also, again, you can add your own and then customize it. So this is what I would see. I can turn it off, and then I can go navigate around and turn it back on. So if I want to, so that's what the star would look like through that telescope and that eyepiece. So you can play around with these things and get some really good sense for what you'll see when you look through the scope in the real, in the real environment. I want to, okay. Then there's also for the imager, there's a whole bunch of sensors that are defined for various camera types. So if your camera, for example, I have a T3i that I modified. This is the T3i view through this, through my scope. And so I can get a sense for what scale the thing I'm looking at will actually capture when I actually go out to the field and do that. And I'm going to show you something I did a couple of years ago. Okay, so here is what we were seeing just a minute ago with a picture of the moon added to it. So you can see the square represents what my camera image looks like. Here is a picture I took with that same camera. Let's see if I can get this together. And I'll try to scale this so you can see that this actually works. So the image in the black is actually the size of that image. Sure, I'll do this. Oh, okay. I've tried to make the rectangle the same size as this black. Get the wrong picture now.
Touch your screen.
I didn't know I had a touch screen. I got a touch screen. Okay, let's bring us back. So. Well, I'm not sure I'm getting this exactly right, but you can get a good, you can see the two images are very close in terms of their scale and the size of the image in that sensor. So here's another example of Stellarium, that particular plugin, doing a great job of providing the imager with the ability to in the warmth of his house, plan his observing, know how wide his object is going to be, his galaxy or his solar object. Go out to the field and have a good confidence that he's going to be able to take a picture and get a good image.
One thing I'd mention is your rotation is different, but you can even do that in Stellarium. You can adjust your rotation in Stellarium.
You can?
So, yeah.
You tell me?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you can rotate the box exactly how you want to frame up your picture, and then hopefully it would exactly match, the image from left and right there. And because you got your Mare on the left on your actual photo, but in the Stellarium it shows it's kind of on the top and the left. But
That's true.
you can change it in Stellarium too to orient your rotation too. So
Just to go back, you did the telescope, and then you started using the eyepieces, right? So you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah,
pick
both.
what telescope you're using just for.
That's right. Okay. Anyways, I just thought that you would enjoy seeing that this actually works. Turn it off. Okay, and then we're going to go for the big kahuna here. Before I start this, what I have to do is, okay, so I have a telescope, and the telescope is a go-to telescope. It has an interface that allows me to control it through a laptop. So the procedure is that you have to align your scope, polar align it, and once it's polar aligned, then you can control it through your through Stellarium. What I've got here is I've got that particular scope uses a serial port, so it has a serial port on the hand controller itself. And just give me 1 second to polar align it, and then we'll actually control it. So. Let me, add on. What time is it?
A few minutes before 9.
Oh, 8:51.
Or in other words, you finished 20 minutes ago.
I'm sorry, 8:51?
52 now.
Yeah, we've got the room till 8:30.
Okay. Thank you.
What is it now?
I shouldn't have picked on you, Rick. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm going to line it. It says select a star, and it always goes to Capella. Okay, it's going to Betelgeuse now. You can probably tell that. Okay, we're aligned. Way to go. It's easy. Okay, so it thinks it's right now on Pollux. So I'm going to turn off some of this stuff too. So here's the telescope control. Telescope 2 is the one that I configured for this ETX model. And I just clicked on start, so it's started. It's connected. And you see now, it's actually, you can see it's actually on Pollux, or I think so. And now, let's ask it to go to Capella. So I selected Capella, and you just do a Control 2. Oh, look at that. Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Tony, for loaning me your ETX today. So that's the telescope control. It's fairly simple. Some telescopes have newer Ethernet, so you'll want to configure it as local area network. Most of the older models have a serial interface where you have a serial cable. Yeah. What else? I think I'm done. Let me just go through. Oh, I missed this one. So we'll save that for another time. But basically, this does some really cool stuff. This is the astronomical calculation. I wanted to show you just one because so I can calculate the ephemerals for this if I just say calculate ephemerals. So I don't know if you can see, I'm sure you can see this, but you can see that it's calculated and actually placed the comet. But it shows the direction of the tail, and it's placed these in locations that correspond to different dates, and you can use that to do stuff. So there's a lot of other features that I won't have time to talk about tonight, but yeah. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I use this all the time. Can I show you the one thing that I think is absolutely its most useful feature, and why you should download this if you do any observing at all?
Sure.
Okay. Left click to get rid of Capella. Put south at the center of the screen. Pull down so you show this whole sky. Pull down and change the pull south down. Grab south, pull it towards the bottom. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Now make it a little bit bigger, and then pull the whole thing down so it. Okay, so you basically went. Okay, good enough. Turn off the equatorial grid, light up the alt-az grid, and turn off everything that's on there except the constellation lights.
Okay, so you want the meridian off? What else you want off? Let me clear that.
The constellation lights and the directional the north, south, east, west of the sun.
Okay, let me kill it those.
Get rid of the comet, get rid of the star names, you do that in the, take the meteors, there's a meteor shower in there, take those off. If they're on, okay.
Okay. anything
All
else?
right, now put the, all the grid back up.
Okay.
Okay, so now, if you, that's equatorial, I think. It's centered on Polaris, I want all that, so it's centered on zenith.
Oh, wait, no, it's not.
This is, as
Polaris is up there on the.
Pardon? Okay, then, okay. For some reason, it's not a, why isn't it a circle? It should be a circle if we're looking at the whole sky.
You need to set his
Okay, close
longitude,
enough.
latitude, right?
So what you've got now, basically, if you
Pardon me, 90.
either invert in Stellarium and print it out, or if you print that out, convert it to a PNG, and then invert the colors in paint, you've now got a chart of the sky that is, you've set the location to where you're going to be observing, the time for when you're going to be observing, and you now have lines on there that are telling you not only what constellations are up, so you know what you should be planning on looking for, but also if you're like me and you don't really enjoy looking at the crap right down near the horizon and all the scut, you've got that line at 30 degrees where you can darken that 30-degree line, so you know you're not going to look at anything outside that line. And if you're also like me and you're an old guy and you use a refractor and you hate trying to see things in your refractor at zenith because you have to bend in ways that you no longer bend, then you can put another line at 60, or like some of us use 50. And you'll know that everything that you want to look at that night is between those two lines. And it's very graphic, it's right there, it tells you what you need to know in a lot less time than figuring out the hard way. And I think I do that literally every time I go out to observe.
Did you see that somewhere?
There's a lot of other things it's good for too, but that's the one that
Did you see how to
makes it
configure that
most
on a website somewhere? Where did you?
I'm sorry?
Where did you learn to configure the?
I can't hear it.
Where did you learn to configure that Stellarium that way?
Configure the what?
Where did you learn to do it?
Where did you learn to do that?
On my computer. by the tried and true method known technically as playing around with it.
You should put that as an addendum to Rick's picks.
What, playing around with it is a good thing? I think that goes without saying. And it works on so many levels.
Yes. Okay. With that, thank you for coming. If there's any questions, I'll stick around and answer.
Thank you.